What's doing, everybody? Welcome to First Class Fatherhood. I'm Alec, and before I hit you with today's interview, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the link in the description so you can listen to all of the interviews I've done with so many tremendous dads, including Dana White, Deion Sanders, Tony Hawk, and so many others. Now let's get going with today's interview. Joining me now, First Class Father, Kyle Hines. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
This is definitely a privilege to be here.
Let's start right here. How many kids do you have and how old are they?
2 kids. My daughter, Anya, is 3 years old, 3.5 now. And I have a son, Justin, who just turned 2 on New Year's Day.
Very cool. Did you guys do any kind of like gender reveal to find out what you were having, or did you guys wait till the end?
So both times we did it kind of different. So the first time we waited until my daughter was born. So we had no idea what the sex with the gender was going to be. So we wanted to kind of do that way just because we kind of wanted to enjoy the pregnancy for what it was. It's kind of wanted to just organically enjoy everything. And then kind of just focus on, just her being pregnant, just making sure that my wife was in the best conditions possible. And then we ended up having a girl the first time. And the second time we actually did a gender reveal at my daughter's christening. So it was kind of a surprise gender reveal. We kind of had everybody up for like a group picture. And then while we were taking the group picture, we had balloons kind of pop up. And everybody was kind of surprised. People didn't really understand what was going on. So they seen the blue balloons. And then you started seeing like my father and her father, start crying. The grandmothers start crying. And, the aunts and everybody, got really excited. So, it was definitely beautiful. It was definitely a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so cool. I love watching those videos when they come up on, YouTube and Twitter with all the different creative ways people come up to announce what they're having. Now you got 1 and 1. Are you going to go to break the tie here, or are you all done?
We want to definitely go for one more. We're thinking possibly 2. My wife's always, floating the idea of, wanting to have twins so she could just have 2 and kind of get it out the way. But yeah, we definitely want to have at least 1 more and then possibly have 2.
I got 4 myself. We had 3 boys and then got the girl on the 4th try. If not, we'd have 5 by now, but we got her.
Congratulations, man. I mean, 4 is a handful, man. I can imagine that you do everything you do and still be able to, maintain the balance with 4 kids. I mean, it's a big thing, a big accomplishment for you and your wife.
All right, Kyle, if you could, please take a minute here just to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Kyle Hines. I'm currently playing basketball. I'm a professional basketball player playing overseas in the EuroLeague. I play for a team called CSKA Moscow. Currently living in Moscow, Russia, with my family. I've been playing professional basketball now for 12 years. For those that don't know, the EuroLeague is essentially the second best basketball league in the world. It's essentially the NBA version, the European version of the NBA. For people that, I guess you'd say familiar names, Luka Doncic, 2 years ago came from the EuroLeague. There's a lot of, big name players that came from Europe or vice versa that are playing over. We travel to play some of the best teams in the best cities, whether or not it's in Greece or whether or not it's Madrid, Barcelona. And like I said, I've been living in Moscow now for the past 7 years.
Yeah, that's very cool, Kyle. And I know you've had all these different experiences. About how old were you when you first became a dad, and how did becoming a father kind of change your perspective on life?
First became a dad at the age of 29. It literally changed everything. I always say that being a parent or becoming a parent is the most selfless thing that you can possibly do. Because suddenly, it's before it was more or less, about, you or your wife or, just individual. And now it's more about the kids. It's more about my children. My day is pretty much surrounded and is by their day. Whatever they want to do, we kind of, plan our days around that, which I honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, it's kind of been the biggest blessing. And it also gave me an opportunity to kind of realize what's important in life. Having kids, having my family close, especially, over here, being here in Russia and being in Moscow, where we don't have, our secondary family or our other primary family members with us. It's just us. So, it gives us opportunity to kind of grow a stronger bond together and kind of, grow a stronger relationship than, I guess you would say, possibly if we were, living back home in the States.
Yeah, well said. And what was the transition like for you to move to Europe? And are you kids like, what is the school system like? I know your kids are a little young yet for it, but what type of schooling do they have for the American families that live over in Russia?
Initially in the beginning, just for me individually, it was a little bit difficult transition. Just coming, from a completely different culture, learning a different language, trying to, just understand a different way of life. And then also just the whole isolation factor of it. Initially when I came for the first 5 or 6 years, I was alone by myself, until my wife came over. So just, kind of, having that, I have a big family, so I have a lot of friends. So just trying to get used to, being alone and kind of, trying to use that time wisely. But when my wife came, literally, we're just talking about it now. She was over here for literally less than 30 days, and we found out she was pregnant. So like it kind of, initially, it had a huge impact on us. And my kids, I mean, Moscow, surprisingly enough, is nothing like what you see on CNN or what you see in the Rocky movies or, all the, John Wick and all that stuff. It's complete opposite. Moscow is probably one of the most family-friendly most kid-friendly places that I've ever seen. Everywhere you go, every restaurant you go to, they have a kid space, they have a play space, they have entertainers there. The malls, all the shopping centers, they have like floors dedicated to kids' play spaces. They have these huge indoor, I guess you would say in the States, almost like Chuck E. Cheese, like luxury Chuck E. Cheese type of play spaces here in Moscow, and it's beautiful. So, my kids, they enjoy it. We live in an apartment building where there's a lot of international people, a lot of diplomats, a lot of other athletes live here. So just downstairs, they have I guess a nursery or almost like a kindergarten. They call it children's garden here. And my kids, they go half day English and they do half day Russian. So we're trying to get them exposed to learning both languages, and also get their ear and their mind exposed to learning multiple languages, like many kids here overseas in Europe and and Russia do.
Yeah, what an important skill to have too, and that'll be very valuable to them growing up. So I shouldn't expect Ivan Drago to meet me off the plane then when I get there, right?
No, not at all, man. It's completely opposite. If you ever have the opportunity to travel to Moscow, I would say definitely come. I mean, it's definitely one of the most beautiful cities in the entire world. I mean, like I said, that was probably the most surprising factor when I came here. I was expecting, all the, everything that we heard growing up, but it's been the complete opposite.
Yeah, you know what I'm curious about, Kyle, is as far as the holidays. Like I know certain holidays like Thanksgiving, Halloween, they're like unique to the United States. While you're over there, do you kind of like keep those traditions in your family, or is there anywhere over there where any of that stuff's celebrated?
So like I said, we're part of a huge international community here, along with the players on my team, the players from other teams. So we try to keep those traditions alive, especially because we want our kids to experience it. We don't, just because they're living abroad, we don't want them to kind of miss out on those opportunities. So one of the things we did, like we kind of orchestrated during Halloween. We have a Halloween party every year that my wife plans. My wife is a event planner here. So she plans a big Halloween party where we had, Elsa, we had, decorations, we had all this different type of stuff for the kids to kind of get a chance to enjoy. And then with the rest of my teammates and some of the other residents here in the apartment building, we kind of organized almost like a trick or treat, type of thing. So the kids can knock on the doors and we can kind of give them candy so they can kind of experience that, those type of things. And the same with like Thanksgiving and with Christmas and stuff like that. We try to, make sure that that they get an opportunity to, celebrate those holidays and have opportunity to, have those experiences, because, we know as, as foreigners living here, sometimes that can be the most difficult part.
Yeah, very cool. And I know you're early here. The kids are young. But so far, what type of disciplinarian are you as a dad? Are you a spanker, timeout guy? How do you kind of handle discipline?
Kind of the I guess me and my wife, we kind of do the, I guess, good cop bad cop routine, I guess you say sometimes. And I tend to be the good cop for most of the time. I think just because with my job I travel a lot, so my wife, she's there, so she's kind of like I guess you could say the more disciplinarian. But like you said, we we what we try to do most is that we do the whole timeout thing, which we kind of did early, but we basically try to explain to my kids, why they're doing it, why they can't do it, and just kind of give them an opportunity to understand right from wrong. I think that's kind of the biggest thing for me, to kind of get that from an early age, to understand why they're doing or what they're doing is wrong, so they can understand why it's wrong, so that way they won't make that same choice again.
Yeah, very well said. And like you said earlier there, it's just you and your wife out there together raising the kids. Like for me, my parents both passed away before I had kids. My wife's parents are divorced and they're not involved in my life.
Yeah.
So it's just us two together. And sometimes that could be a blessing and sometimes it could be a curse. But what was kind of like your family, and especially like what was your wife's family's reaction to finding out that you guys would be moving over to Europe?
They embraced it. They actually loved it. I think one of the best parts about me leaving overseas and our family living overseas, that it gives our family a reason to travel. Probably if I didn't play over here in Russia or in Europe, none of our family members would probably have passports. So it gives them, a great opportunity to, for us to not only, allow them to experience other parts of the world, but also, like I said, build on new experiences and build on new memories together. So we try to make it a point to try to get our family members out here for different holidays or, different things that we have, just so they can kind of, get a chance to experience that. And like I said, it's memories that we're not only growing together, but also with our family members as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, Kyle. And obviously the death of Kobe Bryant sent shockwaves throughout not just the basketball, but the entire world. What was the response? What was the response over there in Europe? Did the European League have any type of tribute to Kobe? How was it handled over there?
It was literally coming off the airplane when I got the news, and immediately you can kind of see the kind of devastation in all my teammates' faces and everybody in our organization. I immediately called my wife and started calling my friends back home, and it was tough. I mean, Kobe Bryant means a lot to a lot of people, especially international. I think he was a true spokesperson, especially for the U.S. Globally. When it comes to athletics, he had a huge meant a huge lot to a lot of people. Just because he was very well versed. He's multicultural. He speaks a bunch of different languages. So I think a lot of people were able to kind of relate to him. The EuroLeague, they did a bunch of different things. We had a moment of silence. Each team, we wore the 24 shirts in memory of him and the rest of the people that lost families. And we also did the 24/8 shot clock tribute that you see like many of the professional teams do. And even still right now, there's still many tributes going on right now. We played a game yesterday and their team had a tribute, and every team that we played so far has kind of tried to honor him and the rest of the people that have lost, the rest of the victims that have lost their lives in their own special way. So, whether or not it's, people writing stuff on their shoes or wearing T-shirts or social media posts, it's just, you could definitely see it, the huge impact that he's had throughout the whole entire world.
Yeah, I think one of the most important parts of his legacy or who he was is that he was a first-class father all the way, and fatherhood was so important to him. And right now, I mean, in the United States, we're facing a fatherless crisis. We have way too many kids that are growing up without a father in their life. What is it? How is the family units over in Europe as opposed to over here? Are they having that similar crisis where there's a lot of kids growing up without a dad? So you don't see that over there as much.
I think not as much. I think, generally the biggest difference between the European culture and the United States culture is that, normally when you're 17, 18 years old, your parents are like, you go on your own, you're out of the house. You're trying to kick you out of the house as soon as possible. And it's a little bit different here. You see, you see families stick together a lot longer. You see kids still living in their parents' homes, upwards until 20 or 30, until they marry, until they have kids. Or even still, you see, groups of families, whether or not it's the mother, the daughter, the brother, along with their wives living in, apartment complexes and living together. So I think here it's a bit more family oriented than it is in the States versus, like you said, you have a lot of, single parent households because of the high divorce rate or because, just in general, because of the culture or different things like that. But I think here families stick together a lot longer, and it's more of a family first environment.
Yeah, that's awesome to see. And Kyle, I know one of the things that we all struggle with as dads is the technology. We're all battling against it because it's hard to kind of lead by example anymore. Because I know myself just from doing what I do, I'm constantly using the phone or some type of form of technology, and I'm trying to tell my kids not to do it. So I know your kids are young yet for this as well, but are they already swiping screens? Are they involved in the technology? And what is it like over there? Everybody the same thing?
I mean, yeah, my daughter is better with my iPhone and iPad than I am, and she's only 3 years old. So, I mean, this is just the world we live in right now. We grew up with a lot different toys and a lot different technology, less type things, and for them it's the opposite. Everything she does is on the iPad, and even when she goes to school, she's 3 years old and they're doing everything on a smart board, or they're doing stuff on a computer. They're doing stuff on YouTube on educational videos. So we try to find a happy balance where when we're with the kids, we because technology is so big for us. That's the way we communicate with our family members because we're abroad. So obviously technology with FaceTime and Skype and everything things like that is really big for us. But we try to have a couple hours out of the day where we're eating dinner or we're together where we just don't have any phones, we don't have any technology, just to kind of have that happy balance. Where we put the iPads away, where you turn the TV off, and just so we can actually conversate more and actually for them not to be so, I guess you say, addicted to the technology for all of us.
Yeah, and it is an addiction, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
have your kids, have they been to the United States yet, or have they spent their entire lives so far in Russia?
No, so both my kids were actually born in the United States. So they came over afterwards while I was here playing. And we spend 10 months out of the year. I spend 10 months out of the year in overseas. And then I'm usually home for 2 months. My family is usually here, I would say, out of the 10 months, they usually here about eight months. And then they go back home. So generally my wife and my kids, they kind of have a happy balance between the states and being back home. My daughter now, she does definitely recognizes the difference. She's always talking about her home in New Jersey and her toys in New Jersey and everything like that. So she recognizes the difference, and she's like, we already booked a trip for them to go home in April, and she's like, oh, I can't wait to go on the airplane so I can go home and I can see Nana and I can see Grandpa and I can see everybody. So she's definitely at the age now where she's starting to realize the difference between the two, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Yeah, I'm speaking to you from Jersey today here, and it's pretty cool. I can
Okay.
only imagine it being a big benefit to your kids growing up to have that multicultural, multi-language. I mean, what a benefit that will be. What about for yourself here, Kyle? I know we're about a month into the new decade here. What kind of goals or plans do you have for yourself here for the future?
Number one, I think the passing of Kobe Bryant definitely had a huge effect on me. One of the things I noticed about him is just his balance of life, how he was able to be such a great basketball player, a great entrepreneur, and do all these things, but yet still be a great father. He was always, at all his, children's stuff, his daughter's stuff. He was always, very supportive and very attentive, to their things. And I think for me, as a father and as an athlete, we're always taught as an athlete to be married to our sport or married to our craft. And that's the reason why we're so successful at what we do. And sometimes our families and our kids are kind of the ones that kind of have to sacrifice. They kind of have to take the brunt of that sacrifice because of my athletic career. I remember, I think it was Elton Brand. I think he said that his daughter's first words were "Bye, Daddy," and that's kind of just because we're always traveling and stuff like that. So I think for me, my biggest goal in 2020 is to try to find that happy balance to where I can be more attentive, where I can still be involved with my career, involved in the things that basketball takes me at, but then also, be very active in my children's lives, especially over here overseas, trying to be more present in the things they do, which is sometimes not easy, but I'm trying my best. And I think that's probably my biggest goal in 2020.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Kyle. And you probably touched on it a little bit here, but the last thing I want to hit you with, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for the new dad or for that about-to-be father who's out there listening?
I think my advice I tell everybody is, number one, enjoy the moment and stay in the present. Because like, as and as many parents know, this time goes by so fast. I remember my dad and everybody saying, it was like, I feel like it was just yesterday you were, 2 years old, or you were 1 year old, or you were in diapers. And I feel that way now, even though my kids are still young, but we look at pictures and videos, I'm like, wow, like they have grown so much over the course of 3 years. So I think that's my biggest advice. Stay present, and enjoy the moment. Take as many photos and videos as possible, because it goes by fast. Kids, kids grow fast, and this time goes by fast. So, like I said, embrace the moment and enjoy the moment. I think that would be my biggest advice.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. This has been an honor for me. I got to say, Kyle Hines, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time on First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you very much.